It is rare, mercifully rare, that headlines from the education world are so shocking that they echo the language of tabloid scandal and courtroom tragedy in one breath. Yet yesterday, such a story took place: the jailing of Anthony John Felton, the head teacher of St Joseph's Catholic School and Sixth Form Centre, who was sentenced to 2 years and 4 months in prison for a brutal and premeditated attack on his deputy. This wasn't simply a story of workplace violence. Dreadful though that would have been, beneath the terse court reports and the clipped official statements lies an even sadder truth: a sordid love triangle, jealousy, and the total collapse of personal and professional restraint. Anthony Felton uh, had been appointed head teacher only in September 2023, less than 6 months into his leadership, but his personal life unravelled catastrophically. The court heard that Felton had discovered he was the father of a child by a fellow member of staff, and a relationship that it seems had been cloaked in discretion, but had ultimately come to light. Worse, from his perspective, he had come to believe that his deputy, Mr. Richard Pike, had entered into a romantic relationship with the same woman. It's just staggering. What followed was not reasoned discussion or professional distance maintained with dignity. It was instead an act of medieval violence. Felton concealed a heavy metal wrench in his pocket, a spanner, sought out the unsuspecting deputy, and while Mr. Pike sat in a chair, attacked him from behind with repeated blows to the head. And it was only the intervention of colleagues, drawn by the sounds of the assault, that prevented even graver injury. In court, Judge Paul Thomas KC remarked that such an attack, a head teacher ambushing his deputy with a weapon, was entirely without precedent, and indeed it's difficult to think of a parallel case in modern British education. But to stop at the shock factor would be to miss the deeper commentary that this incident offers. Felton's rage was not merely personal, it was the explosive culmination of multiple compounding stresses: grief at his mother's death, anxiety over a cancer diagnosis, the pressures of running a modern school, and the emotional confusion of a love affair, all refracted through the lens of jealousy, one of the oldest and most destructive human passions, the green-eyed monster. In other words, it was not merely an isolated crime, it was a sad testimony to the pressures, both internal and external, that modern leadership sometimes hides until it erupts. It was Shakespearean. Richard Pike, the victim, expressed his sense of betrayal poignantly in his victim statement. He described how Felton had manipulated me into a position of complete vulnerability, smiling at him just seconds before raining down the blows. One can imagine the lasting psychological scars. Pike said, "The fear that you could attempt to do me such harm, smiling at me just seconds before, will always be with me." Yeah, it's not only Mr. Pike who has suffered. The entire school community, staff, student, parents, has had its trust shredded. The idea that a head teacher, entrusted with the pastoral care of students, of children, could behave with such violence strains the entire imagination. The case also reflects a darker truth: that schools are no longer the havens of calm authority that they once were idealised as. They're only recently, as the judge noted, a 14-year-old girl elsewhere in Wales was charged with attempting to murder 2 teachers and a pupil. In a world where violence too often intrudes into schools, from pupils, from parents, and now astonishingly from staff, leadership itself becomes an exercise in psychological endurance. The stresses are silent, cumulative, and corrosive. In my experience, if you see bullying in the playground, it's already in the staff room. Felton's fall is therefore not merely the story of one man's disgrace, it's the grim parable about how fragile the line is between authority and collapse when personal demons go unchecked. No title, no position, no veneer of professionalism is immune if rage and despair are allowed to fester unchecked. Anthony Felton's crime was not simply that he struck a man, it was that he shattered trust, he betrayed a profession, he revealed how easily private turmoil can bleed into public tragedy. He shows how the monster within us can be released. It's a reminder, sad, sobering, and essential, that leadership demands not just competence and intelligence, but deep emotional self-discipline and support. Without it, even the head of a school can become in an instant its gravest threat.